This is Pumpkin. He's one of my babies. He's our little orange guy. He just kind of like chases his tail around and then attacks flies and then gets sad when he accidentally kills them because they were his friend. Thought we could start with a cat before actually getting into more serious things. As you can tell from clicking on the video, we're talking about food noise today. And food noise is kind of something that's only been a term recently. Uh, it didn't always have a definition, and let me look up the actual definition of food noise. I've got my notes on my iPad down here. All right, so here's the actual definition of food noise. Persistent, often intrusive mental chatter about food, such as what to eat, when to eat, and cravings. They occur even when you aren't physically hungry. It can occupy significant mental space, making it difficult to focus on daily tasks or adhere to health and wellness goals. So from the actual definition, I feel like there's even more to it. And I have some notes, so I'm going to be reading from my notes. So things like obsessing over your calories, mentally negotiating treats, always checking if you're allowed to eat, and thinking about food even when you're physically full. So food noise isn't just, I want a cupcake, I want a cookie. It's like an all the time intrusive thought about food. And food noise is something I am very familiar with and have definitely struggled with and currently still experience. But I feel like to kind of dig even deeper into it, I really like to understand the why behind things. I find the why to be the most important thing. So there's a lot of different causes or a lot of different like physiological responses that could be responsible for what's causing your food noise. So some of them are undereating. So if you have been in a prolonged cut, if you're in an extreme calorie deficit, if you're dieting for a show, if you're dieting too aggressively, if you're not eating enough protein and fiber, the food noise is a biological, physiological response to your body needing more fuel. You can't willpower your way through that. Your body is asking for more fuel. On the psychological side, being way too restrictive on food groups or types of food and thinking, oh, I can never have a cookie, I can never have a cupcake, I can't have pizza. When you overly restrict certain food groups, you're going to want it more. Think about when you were a kid, or if you're a parent with a toddler. You tell them not to do something and they're going to say why and probably do it anyways. Don't touch the stove. Why? Because it's hot. Okay. So when you tell your brain you can't have these certain things, all that it's going to do is make you want it more. Labeling foods as good or bad, there are no good or bad foods. That's not a real thing. There are foods that typically digest better, that will help you reach your goals quicker if you focus mainly on eating those. There is not a diet that exists that you can't also enjoy the occasional sweet treat. Another really big one is emotional eating. So emotionally, when you get home from work, you're exhausted and you really haven't eaten much, that itself is a physiological response to you actually being hungry. But the emotional stress of being deprived of nutrients is going to make that food noise louder and make it even harder to stick to the goals that you have. Another big one, anxiety, loneliness, and celebration. Those are all emotional responses. Also, boredom. I don't know if boredom is talked about enough, but on the days for me personally when I'm at work as a paramedic on my 48-hour shift, days that we are, I don't like saying the S word, SLOW, That's a curse word in EMS. um, on days that we are less busy and I have more free time, I normally know exactly what I'm eating every single day. I pretty much know what time I'm eating things. I eat about 7 times a day. I know about the time frame and what I'm going to eat. If I've eaten all these things on a day that I'm at home, I feel satiated. That's how I know that that's enough food for me. On days at work where I have time without other things to do filling the time, because we can't leave the station really very much unless we're on a call. Um, we're confined to like our living quarters. So for me, I notice food noise is really bad at work, and that is a psychological response to boredom. Boredom is a big one. On the other side of emotional habits, if you are used to eating a bag of chips when you're watching TV, then choosing to not do that one time, that food noise is going to be really loud, because that is a pathway that has been created in your brain that, oh, it's TV time, it's chip time. So that's why that food noise is loud. It is possible to break through that, but it's not easy. Other habits, if you're used to snacking while driving, food noise is going to be loud. There's a lot of connections to what could be causing it. Poor sleep is another big cause of food noise. People really underestimate how important a full night's rest is. When you don't get enough sleep, your hormones get all out of whack in your body, and it is going to make that food noise significantly worse as well. There are probably more causes. These are the ones that I was able to kind of like list out and identify. If you have more, please leave them in the comments so I can learn as well. I'm learning with you guys. So now let's try and figure out together your reason for the food noise. Some things you can ask yourself: when is it worse? Every evening, at work, only around certain foods, only while dieting, on your period, or after skipping meals, after not getting enough sleep one night. Starting to identify the patterns and even potentially writing it down somewhere. You can type it in your notepad on your phone. You can keep a little journal you got from Dollar Tree and start tracking those patterns, because when you start recognizing the pattern, you can start to disrupt it at least a little bit. If you determine the cause is because you're under fueling and you're not prepping for a show, so you don't need to be in that extreme deficit, making sure you eat enough protein and fiber is huge. Also, if you don't want to significantly increase your calories, try and opt for food with more volume. It physically takes up more room in your stomach and you're going to feel full for longer. Also, don't skip meals. It's going to make it way worse. If you identify it's more of an emotional response for you, some tips to help with that is pause before eating. Ask yourself what emotion you're trying to change. What emotion are you avoiding right now? And build alternate coping skills. If you notice that it's a habit, for example, the watching TV and grabbing a bag of chips or popcorn or whatever it is, watch TV in a different place in the house. Break that pattern. If you normally sit on the couch, sit in a different room, sit in bed, break that pattern, disrupt that pattern a little bit, and that can help start the process of rewiring your brain's reward system, replacing routines instead of just relying on willpower. And again, with dieting, if you're dieting, maybe you are just not eating enough and you might just need to be eating more food. It could really well be that your body is just demanding that you give it what it needs. Let's talk about the things that will not fix the food noise. Number one, trying to have more willpower and discipline. That will not fix it. There is a reason for the food noise, and trying to be stronger than it is not going to make it go away. It is only going to make it worse. Drinking coffee, tea, soda to try and suppress appetite, it's also not going to help. If you need food, you need to eat. Food is fuel. Trying to stay busy 24/7 so you never have to think about food. That's also not going to work. Your body still needs you to fuel it so you can continue to do your daily life. Chewing gum constantly, it's also not really going to help. Ignoring your hunger or starting another stricter diet, these are all things that are not going to help. Those are all things that are just putting a band-aid and avoiding the actual root problem. If you can identify the root problem, you can find a way to sustainably live a happier life without constant food noise. I do want to share a little bit about my personal experience with food noise. So let's just kind of go way back with me. When I was younger, um, 14, 15, 16, around that age, I had bulimia. So binge, purge, okay? And I never got professional help for it. Eventually, I don't really know exactly what happened inside of me, but something kind of helped pull me out of it, for lack of a better explanation. And it was a gradual thing. I also did go through periods where I just wouldn't eat. I think the longest I made it was 5 days. I got really sickly looking, as you can imagine, and that all lasted for a while. I think the thing that might have helped pull me out of it, I don't know a better term to use, I'm sorry, um, but I think was seeing how it was affecting the people around me. And that's actually when I started getting into lifting. So I'm 28 now. So I've been in and out of the gym from, I'd say we started being consistent again when I was 26. So for about 10 years, from 16 to 26, about a decade, we were in and out of the gym. But around 16 is when I started actually weightlifting. And I started kind of trying to learn about food, about nutrition, and that's why nutrition has always been one of my favorite things to talk about. And one of the things that I absolutely love is because I've been spending the last 12 years learning so much about nutrition. And education really helped me because I started to learn that you need to eat in order to grow your muscles. And then I started realizing I like having muscles. I like feeling strong. I didn't like feeling that small, weak feeling. I really enjoyed feeling strong. So food noise has been very prevalent for me for a lot of my life because the disordered eating, and then I would go through periods of extremely restrictive diets. I was vegan for almost a year. Don't really know why. Just a fun little challenge, I guess. I've done Whole30, keto, um, not a diet, but 75 hard. Just a lot of those like restrictive things. And I also grew up being told that like carbs are bad, you shouldn't eat sweets or you're gonna get fat, stuff like that. And I think a lot of us probably grew up with that diet culture, and that really played a role in the emotions I would have around certain foods. And more recently, after coming out of my first prep, so I wasn't fully in a prep for 8 months, but I was in a deficit for 8 months. I started working with my coach in July of 2025. And then in March of this year, 2026, I had my show, and then I went into a reverse after. Except in my experience, it wasn't a necessarily proper reverse. So the thought was that after 8 months of being in a cut, it was 8 months of being in a cut. I lost 50 pounds in that time frame. And the thought was, hey, you've been super restrictive, you've been tracking your macros, you've been avoiding all of these foods. Why don't you just have a week, 1 week to do whatever you want, eat whatever you want? And at the time, it did make a lot of sense. But then the problem became that it was oh, I have 1 week before I'm getting back on plan. I have to eat all of these foods I've been wanting for 8 months. That's a long time to be having a mental and a physical list on my phone of foods that I wanted to eat post show that had been restricted from me. As you can imagine, the food noise was so loud. I had a mental breakdown in Walmart because I was so overwhelmed at how many options I had that I didn't even have a couple days ago. So it was so overly restrictive for so long. And then having a timeline on being able to cram everything that I want to eat in just made it so much harder. That's why this time around I'm doing something completely different. I am filming this right now on Thursday, post my Pro Card Win show last Saturday. So it's a little under a week. And so far, this reverse is going completely different. And I'm really happy about that because the food noise this time around is significantly more manageable. I came to the realization that food isn't disappearing, food is not going anywhere. There is no timeline this time around on eating all of the things that I want to eat. So we're going to just do one free meal a week, and everything else needs to fit into my macros. And I really love the if it fits your macros method for so many reasons. I feel like it helps create balance and it helps you reach your goals at the same time. So if you want to eat that piece of candy, you want to eat that cookie, wonderful, eat it, fit it into your macros. Still prioritizing protein and fiber because those are very important, but the flexibility and freedom of like, oh, I want to have this ice cream, I want to have this. You just fit it in your macros. So my diet is probably like 90 to 95% clean, but like I got some of those Unreal brand candies. It's like this big. It's tiny. And it's like the coconut dark chocolate. I just got them today from Target. I have one tracked in my day. It's like 70 calories, I think. But I already put one tracked in my day, so I just moved some other things around so that can be my little thing that I have today. I'm still allowing myself to indulge in some of the things that I wasn't really eating during prep, but it's not that all or nothing that comes with dieting most of the time. There's a lot more flexibility, and that's why I really love the if it fits your macros approach. And I've been doing macros, oh my gosh, since we were doing CrossFit back in like 2018, I think is when we started CrossFit. That was when I first started tracking macros. And then there was a couple years in there where we weren't really tracking, but every time I was attempting to get back on track, I always started with macros. So for the last year, I've been consistently tracking my macros. My coach had me on only macros, no meal plans. Um, I just chose to fill my macros with foods that were going to keep me full when I was at extremely low calories, and a little candy bar was not one of those things. But now that I'm allowing myself in this reverse to eat a little bit more food, I'm gradually adding more food back, I'm also allowing myself that flexibility. And I think just realizing that you're a human with emotions around food constantly. There's always food everywhere. Every social event, there's food. Why is there food at every social event? Somebody please tell me. It's either food or alcohol or both. Like, why can't we just go bowling and not need to get chicken nuggets? And then holidays. I mean, you've got Christmas, Thanksgiving. These are holidays that are very much so focused around eating. Even like July 4th, Independence Day. It's fireworks, but there's always hot dogs, burgers, food. So your food noise is valid. There is always food around, and it is not just you. I really don't believe food noise is something that can be fixed because of how much food is around us all of the time, but I do think it is something that can be managed when you start to identify those patterns and figure out a way to work through them. A lot of things in life, if you want to create a long-term sustainable change, requires patience and a lot of effort. So you're not alone in the food noise. I know exactly how you feel. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching. I hope that this helped a little bit, and please feel free to leave comments on what other topics you want me to talk about. I love sitting anywhere in my house and just talking to my camera. I love listening to myself talk. Hopefully you guys like listening to me talk also. Thank you for being here, and don't forget, you were built to rise.